I have questions, and it is really a blessing that I can often get really qualified, smart people to take my call and answer my questions. My questions come from a place of genuine curiosity, some education, sometimes science fiction. And my latest question really was about elevators. The dictionary says an elevator is a platform or compartment housed in a shaft for raising and lowering people or things to different floors or levels. I get it. Makes sense. That's a machine definition of an elevator. But in 2025, elevators are way more complex. There are modern buildings that have multiple elevator banks that are computer programmed. Some may even have cameras which can detect how many people are waiting at a certain floor. Efficiency can be created. It's no longer the old school look from black and white movies where there's a person standing in an elevator asking you which floor you want to go to. That's clearly a machine. So my question is, are modern elevators potentially robots? Take a listen. It's Atlanta Tech Week. I'm on top of the Thompson. I just met this photographer who has a really wonderful name. Your name is Bryndan Carter. Very similar. But Bryndan, as we're talking, I found out Bryndan's also an engineer. And I asked him, what's his specialty? You said?
Robotic process automation, RPA for short.
Okay. I haven't prepped him on the question at all. So he's gonna take this question cold. Bryndan, might sound weird.
Okay.
I wanna know, are elevators considerable as being robots?
Considerably, yes.
Give me both sides. Why no? Why yes?
Yes, because a robot functions as something that you give it some sort of instruction to do, and it executes it on the steps as it was programmed. I guess I'm answering it in a caveat-ish way,
of course.
But whatever steps that you give it, it executes it as given. So like an elevator, you say, take me to floor 5, you press the button.
It's going to go along the path and stop at the
floor 5 until given the next instruction. You meet someone else at floor 5 that's trying to go down or up, and it does the next task just like a robot would.
Now, why would elevators not be considered robots?
Because they would be robots in the fashion that they are limited to their specific capabilities versus, let's just say, a human robot in a manufacturing plant could do numerous amount of tasks that it is programmed, just like an elevator, but an elevator is specific to one task versus other robots being designed to do multiple tasks.
I'm taking that as a yes, and it's a win. Thank you so much, Bryndan. I appreciate it. And maybe the better question is, for the modern building with multiple elevator banks, computer controlled, with all the efficiencies that can be created, can that building be considered more robot than ever before? I'm Bryndan Moore. Welcome to the Black Futurist Podcast.
He's more machine now than man.
The Black Futurist.
That's one small step for man.
Okay.
As I said earlier, last week was Atlanta's Tech Week, as well as Render, which is a tech conference here in Atlanta. And those two laid on top of each other and even coordinated themselves through the Render app. So we had a full week of Atlanta Tech Week events, Monday through Friday, at different locations around the city. That was fantastic. And then Render had their events Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So there was a lot to do. There was a lot to learn and a lot of people to meet. So check out my conversation with Angie Jones. She is the Vice President of Developer Relations at Block. We talked about the impact of AI, not just on our society, but also on careers and on the careers of developers specifically. Take a listen. The question is, as generative AI reshapes what coding looks like, where do you see the biggest opportunities and biggest threats for early career developers trying to enter the field today?
Yeah, so for early career developers, this opens like amazing opportunities for them to jump in right away. Like A lot of times people wonder, is this something I want to do? I know it's lucrative, it sounds a little interesting, and then you spend the next 18 months to 4 years trying to learn how to do this, and it might not even be something you enjoy. Right. With generative AI, what this does is let you get that first dopamine hit right away, right? So I can start building something with natural language in a matter of minutes, and then I can then look at this and say, okay, now let me try to learn it. You can even ask the AI, why did you do it like this? Help me understand this. So people basically have a built-in tutor who can also help them build, right? So that unlocks a lot for people. Everybody has ideas and they want to build them and get them out there, and this enables people to do so. Now, the catch is, if you don't understand the foundational knowledge of this stuff, right, of programming in general, not even specifically about the AI, but if I say, hey, build me an app that does X, Y, and Z, it builds it in 5 minutes, I'm clicking it like, dang, this actually worked. And you think you're good to ship this to the app store, right? That might not be the case. Your app takes off, you got 5 million downloads, and it's crashing all the time. You didn't, the AI that puts all kind of security vulnerabilities, because they thought you was just doing this for the house. You know, they didn't know you were trying to take it out there. So if you don't understand those things and how to read like what the code that they built and ask questions back to it, I always tell people, ask questions back to the AI. Is this secure? I'm not a security expert. I don't know how to look for vulnerabilities in code, right? I know a few tricks, but I ask my AI, like, okay, let's say I'm going to scale this to 5 million people. Is it scalable right now, or do we need to tweak it? You know, are there any security? Let's think about this from a security aspect. So you still need to be in control and basically direct these things to do what you need to do.
If you were advising someone in high school of what languages they should still learn in coding today, are they the same as they were when you entered the field? And
No.
if not, how did they change and why?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend a specific programming language. It really doesn't matter. What I would recommend is understanding the foundational logic behind programming languages, right? So for example, all of them have the same sorts of structures, right? Conditional statements. So if you run into this, you should do this. If you run into that, you should do that. Loops. So I might need you to continue this certain action for a specific amount of time. So those sorts of concepts are the building blocks. And then from there, you can take that literally to any language. And now with generative AI, I don't necessarily need to master any one specific language, you know what I mean? As long as I understand those building blocks, I think that'll take you forward. So I wouldn't even recommend honing in on JavaScript or Python or anything like that.
Cool. From your experience bridging technical and executive audiences, what's one misconception C-suite leaders may have about AI adoption that could cost them in the long run? Think about Blockbuster and all the sunken ships that you know about.
I think that I can vibe code an app. In fact, I did a workshop at this conference where we had 3 hours and we vibe coded 10 apps. We had the participants. Some of them had never used AI before. In 3 hours, they had built 10 functional apps. So if I'm looking at this from an executive standpoint and not in the weeds of it, that might seem, oh wow, 10 apps in 3 hours, we could do whatever we want to do, right? Why y'all not cranking this stuff out faster is what you think. But those apps they were toy apps. They were, they did work. They work locally on your machine. As soon as you start trying to scale this, again, it can get complicated, right? There's a thing called vibe coding where it's just vibes. We built those 10 apps. Most people probably never looked at the code of those apps. It didn't matter. It worked, right? But on an enterprise level, from a company, that doesn't fly. That's not going to scale, and you need production quality software. So I think executives see something like that, vibe coding, and think, oh yeah, we should be cranked. I don't even need all of these developers. Let's get rid of half of them and get the other half to use AI, and we should be knocking out features like it's nothing, right? So there's a misconception there of like how good and capable these tools actually are for production type applications.
Right. Okay, building on that, how do you bridge from those toy apps and the skills it took to do that to getting to production stage, being able to be a contributor in production stage
Right.
stuff?
So that's where your engineers are going to come in. You still need those folks, right? Don't get rid of them. You need them because they can then take that as a starting point. Great, you got me started, and now I'm going to enhance this. I'm going to clean it up a bit. I'm going to add the security. I'm going to make sure that it's scalable. I'm going to make sure it's readable. If I were to leave this company, can the next person come in and take over this application?
Right.
So that's where they're going to come in at.
Okay. With AI now participating in software design, testing, and even decision making, what does responsible automation actually look like, and who should be held accountable if it goes wrong?
Yeah. So when you look at any AI tool, when they contribute code to your code base, they're doing that under your name. Your byline gets associated with that.
Right.
And so if there's anything that happens, say for example, you have the AI generate some code for you, you submit that, it goes into production, there's a security vulnerability, and now all of a sudden you have this exploit, and now it's cost your company billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. They're not going to blame that AI tool. Who submitted this?
Right.
Bryndan. It's on you,
right?
And so it's up to whoever's using these tools to use it responsibly because that's coming under your name. Now, there are people looking at things like attributing certain code contributions to the agents or the AI tools that created them, but still, you're the overlord here,
right?
It's still on your watch. Think about if you had a rogue employee who was doing this, it still would come back to you. Why did you let that fly?
Right. We expect you to be competent.
We expect you to be competent.
That's right. How should engineering teams adapt their testing and QA strategies when working with non-deterministic AI systems, especially when outputs may not be reliably replicated or predicted?
No, that's a very good question because everything is changing. The whole web is about to change, in my opinion. So I'm looking very closely at what I'm seeing in the trends. I go to a lot of conferences. I went to Google I.O. I read a lot. I'm seeing what people are building. What I think is about to happen with the web is a dynamic interface will be generated based on your intent. So, for example, Google I.O. was like, oh, instead of just searching for like concert tickets, how about when you say, hey, I want to go see Beyonce tonight, she in town, find me some tickets for less than X amount of dollars.
Right.
It not only finds the tickets and gives you a link, it generates a widget at that very moment right there in Google search with the tickets available in a button, and you never had to leave that. You never went to Ticketmaster, you never went to anybody's site, and you purchased those tickets. We're seeing that in agents as well, where right now, like think about when you talk to ChatGPT or something like that, it's a textual conversation.
Right.
And if they need to ask you for more information or any questions, they might say, hey, I need this, and this information. And you're like, okay, number one, number two. That's not efficient, and that's not how we're used to working. We're used to like a very interactive experience.
Right.
And so those AI agents and chatbots are going to start whipping that up for you. Like, I need information from you. Maybe it's a choice you need to make. Let me make a dialogue that now shows you those choices, and you click the one you want.
Right.
So when you talk about testing this stuff, how do you test that when you don't know what the UI is going to look like? You have no idea. So I think we need to move more towards testing intent. The customer's intent was to buy tickets to a Beyonce concert. At the end of this interaction, did that happen or not, right? And that's the test, not how they got there.
Right. Okay. So these are less technical questions that really just come from my weirdo brain. Number one, if I want to run like Olama, just for my family, if I want to run open source AI because I'm concerned with privacy, or I want to train my model specifically on whatever my key focus is, what's that going to cost me? What do I need?
Yeah. So this is a really interesting global race right now where we have open source local models that people can download to their computers. Most of us don't have the powerful hardware
Right.
needed to run these huge multi-gigabyte types of models.
Right.
And so the experience right now today is not that great, right?
Okay.
However, it's getting better and better by the day. I would not be surprised if by the end of the year we had this in place. There's some people right now who have machines like that are riding the train and they have their local models downloaded and they're working with no Wi-Fi at all, right? So that's really great for accessibility, but also, like you said, the privacy aspects where, look, I'm cooking up something top secret. I can't be talking to these models online. I need this right here, close to the chest, right? But if you're talking about a company, they may have the hardware for something like that, where they can do those sorts of things. But the global race, we saw China release DeepSeek, which is similar to like those Olama models.
Yeah.
They were just as capable, but they were totally free, and that kind of scared people a bit. That scared the big companies like, yo, we trying to charge for this.
Right.
What you doing? You just giving it away?
Right.
You about to mess the whole game up.
Right.
But that was a power play. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a global race right now where this is going to go. My hope is that we get to efficient models that you can run local that don't cost you.
Okay, got it. So this is a total outside question that I like to call, who gonna read all that?
Yeah.
If we were producing via AI billions of words a day and video and photo, the consumption side just seems like it's gonna hit an inelastic point. To whom are we selling? To whom are we writing? When you have so much production ramped up, every single person can now draft a darn near novel in a week. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, and what are you thinking we're going to see 5-10 years down the line as a result? How does the market change?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of slop for a while. It's going to get very saturated. You're not going to be able to tell what's real and what's fake until you are able to tell.
Yeah.
So when ChatGPT first hit the scene and people were like, oh, write this for me, write this article. At first you didn't know, but after you saw the pattern for a little while, you're like, it's from AI. This dude and gave me an article, and you don't want to read it anymore.
Right.
You know, you lost interest. I review conference abstracts. So people, for render actually, people submit their abstract of stuff they want to talk about. And you, AI written.
Yeah.
You throw them away, and then somebody comes with a human written one. It might not even be that great, but it does something to me as a human.
Yeah.
And I start getting hungry and craving for just human. When I read a blog post now, I automatically tell if it's AI or not.
Right.
And when it's not, it just feels really good.
Right.
So I think we're going to go through a period where it's going to be a AI saturated content, right? But eventually we all going to get real sick of that, and we're going to go back to, it's going to be where, you know, when you handmade clothing and it has more value, we're going to get to that. Like, no, this human generated right here. You pay a premium for that.
You better have me submit my applications in cursive, in blue pen. See how that works out.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can people find out about your work, number one? Of course, we can Google you. But I also want to know, like, when you're wildly successful at what you do, how has our society changed 50 years from now?
So to find me, angiejones.tech is my website. As far as 50 years from now, so my job is to make sure that people understand what's going on, and I help them to lock in, tap into it, and be successful themselves. So I think right now, people who have influence should be dropping little nuggets into the ears of other people who have influence, you know? Board of directors, executives, politicians, people like this, they need to understand what they're getting us into. Some of this stuff is really dangerous territory. And if we all just sit back and like look at how amazing this is, we're gonna cook ourselves. We're gonna get ourselves in trouble. So you need people who understand like the ethical considerations, climate considerations, just considerations on humans. Like if we're firing everybody, what everybody gonna do?
Right.
How are we spending money? How are we moving as a society? If that's where we're headed, like why are y'all excited about that? That's weird, right?
Right.
So someone needs to talk some sense into these folks, and hopefully that'll help shape the next 50 years.
Angie Jones.
Thank you so much.
Welcome the rain. Just like South Florida, but not. And last but not least, I met with Kedasha Kerr, the GitHub advocate, who has an incredible story of how she entered into a career as a developer from social work. She tells her story, the mental shifts she had to employ in order to gain success, what she's doing at GitHub and beyond. Take a listen. We're at Render 2025 with Kedasha Kerr, who my buddy Jason, Code TV, said was one of the most impressive persons that we've seen here at the show this year. That's incredible, right?
Thank you, Jason. I really can't believe Jason said that about me. I love his content. Like, I look up to him as an engineer so much. It's incredible that he said that about me. Thank you.
Love it. Not only did he say it, it was the first name he said.
I know.
Period,
that's crazy. Awesome. That's crazy. But is it crazy though?
It's not.
It crazy?
Should we just accept all good things? First of all, thank you so much for sitting with me.
Of course.
I put together a few questions for you that I think you're uniquely positioned to answer, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me jump right in.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. You transitioned from social work to tech under financial pressure at the time. You quit your job and juggled 3 part-time gigs. I'd love to hear what those gigs were. And completed a boot camp in 10 months.
Yeah.
What mindset shifts and strategies helped you in that time?
I will say, like, saying financial pressures is putting it very lightly. I was struggling. Like, I had like a 410, like a 4 or 5 credit score. I had creditors calling me. I was in debt. Like, I literally couldn't buy food because I was so broke, and I was working full time.
Right.
And the gag is nobody knew that I was struggling this much. So like, I was scrolling on social media at the time, and I discovered this finance influencer who said that she taught herself how to code, and she's now earning $1 bajillion. And I was like, what is code?
Right.
And how can I tap into that to also earn $1 bajillion? Because I was in such deep desperation. And it's interesting that you ask about mindset shifts, because at the time I was consuming a lot of financial content because I was like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I need to learn how to budget.
Yeah.
But what I learned during that time is I can't budget my way out of a low income. So like, I had to figure out a way to dramatically increase my income, and coding was the way forward for that. So at the time I was consuming finance information. I was listening to real estate podcasts. I was listening to business podcasts. One of my favorite podcasts at the time was How I Built This by Guy. By Guy Raz. I used to listen to the Budgetnista a lot, consuming her Brown Girl Ambition podcast. Like, I was just consuming educational content at the time, and that really helped me to elevate my mindset and to open up my thinking into things I've never thought about before, like coding.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And so like, I'm a very resilient person, so I think that helps me as well. I'm also Jamaican, and as a Jamaican, I'm gonna hold the job down, and if I need to work 5 jobs at the same time, I'm gonna do it, best believe.
Right.
And so the 3 jobs I worked while I was doing the boot camp, I was doing Shipped. So I was a Shipped shopper, and I would specifically go to the rich neighborhoods because they tipped really well. I was working as a domestic violence advocate, so I'm a certified DV advocate. So on the weekends, like from 3 to 11 at night, I was working like on campus assisting the women. And I also worked part-time at my full-time job. So I spoke to my manager and I asked her if I could go part-time, and she agreed because I could do my full-time job on a part-time basis. And so like, those were the 3 jobs I was doing at the time. But the mindset shift is really just like listening to those content, constantly feeding myself all day, every day. On my commute at home, I was meditating. I learned about The Secret. So I started doing like manifesting and vision boards. I was really tapped in.
In what city were you living where you're working full time and still couldn't cover the basics?
Yeah, I was in Florida at the time. I was living in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay.
But like I was earning like $16 an hour
Right.
or something. I don't know. It just wasn't working out.
Makes sense. My curiosity on geography and local economy, and just wondering,
Yeah.
affordability is a key topic these days.
Yeah.
Everywhere. You've spoken about the tech skills gap and how it's projected to cost trillions globally. How would you advise startups and small businesses to build or source talent effectively without the resources that the big companies have?
Yeah, I would advise startups and entrepreneurs and companies to look in your communities, literally. Look in your local communities and build in your local communities. You can host meetups, you can host hackathons,
Right.
you can host like events that invites technical talent to come out and show off your product and say, hey, we're looking to hire you. What is your skill set? Like, what does that look like?
Right.
I think there's a ripe opportunities for companies to tap into the local economy and local communities, because so many things are happening online. It feels saturated, even though it's not. But as you say, like big tech companies are they're gonna dominate. So like if you can go, let's say I live in Chicago, for example. If you can tap into the Irving Park community and say, hey, I'm gonna host an event in Irving Park. My name is Startup XYZ,
Right.
and I'm looking to hire engineers. Guarantee engineers will come out.
Right.
Guarantee I will talk about it because I live in Chicago, so I'm a technical influencer. So guarantee you get exposure from that. So tap into the community,
Right.
literally.
When you started, you learned what languages?
When I started, I learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React.
Okay. When was this? What year were you?
This was in 2019. In 2019,
If you were starting today,
yeah.
would you do it differently? Would you learn different languages? Would you learn languages? What would you do?
If I was starting to get into the tech industry today, first of all, I would cry. I mean, there are layoffs happening left, right, and center.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get an entry-level job because they're non-existent.
Yeah.
So if I was starting today, I would actually go to a university-type certification program.
Okay.
So I would still complete a coding bootcamp type thing, but I'd make sure it's from a school that's certified. I would also make sure to take AI and machine learning certification, like post-grad cert as well, to make sure I understand the fundamentals of AI systems and how to build with AI tools, how to build apps with large language models, what models to use, how to fine-tune models, how do I know if this model is performing properly, how do I build a solutions for a business that's struggling to manage their emails.
Right.
So I would go back and learn how to do those things, because even though it looks like the market is saturated with people that know AI, most of us are trying to catch up. Like, the industry is moving so fast. So as someone that's trying to get into the industry, you have to tap into where the industry is leading. And tech is brutal. So like, if you're not with it, you're just not gonna get cut, you're not gonna get looked at.
Stepping back to mindset and all the intake, all your diet at the time,
Yeah.
your information diet, which was not just tech. It
Yeah.
was, like you said, all the podcasts and finance and all
Yeah.
that stuff. When you started making money,
Yeah.
you also probably had new thinking on how you should be spending money. So in what things have you invested outside of tech
Yeah.
since that time?
That's such a great question, because when I started earning a little bit of money, like my first big salary was, I think it was $65,000 a year. That's the first jump I made from, like, I was bringing home $28,000 in
Right.
2019.
Yeah.
And in 2020, I went to like almost $80,000, everything combined. And I was like, whoa. One of the biggest things I struggled with was how to manage that money.
Yep.
Because I have family back home, I have family here, I have friends here, I had debts, student loans, credit cards. So like a lot of the things I was doing was I was catching up.
Yeah.
I was trying to get to zero so
Right.
that I could start.
Yep.
And so like I didn't really start reaping the benefits of my money until like 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
And that was like me being like 3 or 4 years into the industry, because I was catching up.
Right.
And so now what I'm invested in, like now I just bought a property in Chicago.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And so I intentionally bought a multi-unit property,
Right.
so that I could rent it out, live in the other one, move in a year, and do the same thing again. So I've been very strategic. I'm also a strategic investor in like index funds. So I don't like mess around with like the this and that stocks. I just do an index fund because I know that the return is going to be greater.
Yep.
I also try to invest back into my community. So I do a lot of mentorship to try to teach people like you can lift yourself out of financial ruin. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of mental work to do. So like I try to invest in my community through mentorship, and I also heavily invest in therapy.
Hey, huge and great answer. I love that.
Yes.
I think that's probably the biggest one for me
Yes.
on that list. That's incredible. You've built strong online communities through content, workshops, and public speaking. What do you see as the biggest disconnect between social engagement metrics like views and likes and deeper impact?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like a lot of times being a person that creates content on social media, I do get caught up in the numbers sometimes, but I have to constantly remind myself of the value and the purpose of posting. So I don't post just to post.
Yeah.
I post to provide information because I want to teach other people how to get where I am, because I was where you are, if you
Yeah.
are where I
Yeah.
was, right? So like I try to think about the purpose and the meaning, and like I don't post to be an influencer. I'm a business. Like I have a business. That
Right.
Lady Dev is a business. So I post with meaning and purpose. I think just like reminding yourself of the why you're doing it helps me anyway to like stay focused on like the reason I'm posting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I use social media a lot to attract job opportunities, speaking engagements, brand deals. I use social media to connect with my community. Every job I've had, social media has had it in the tech industry. Social media has had a significant impact and like provided a significant pathway for me to get that job because of how I show up online.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I don't really focus on the numbers. I focus on the impact.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. I just don't know how else. What is a better metric? Because we all do see the numbers. We all can, like, if I post something, I can see how many times it was. To me,
Yeah.
shares is a big thing. You know,
Yeah.
I don't really necessarily, the likes aren't a big deal, but if I see
Yeah.
people sharing the content or saving it,
Exactly.
those are valuable to me.
I think like shares and save, but even outside of social media, when I come to events like this, I have people coming up to me sharing their stories with
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Kedasha, you shared XYZ, I got into XYZ program and now I'm doing this.
Telling you stories about
that
yourself.
for me
I
is
love
the
that.
impact, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having that tangible story that I can be like, wow, okay, somebody's actually watching and listening and learning.
That's right.
That's why I do it.
It's fantastic. You've talked about your background
Yeah.
in social work, and that gave you a strong foundation in empathy. Can you share a time when applying empathy in your technical work changed a product outcome or engineering decision? And can teams intentionally make space for that kind of thinking?
Yeah, so like I would say like we launched GitHub certifications I think like last year or 2 years ago, and the price was a little high.
Yeah.
And so I saw a lot of community chatter online and in like little groups about, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Da, 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 da. So I actually took that feedback and I brought it back to the certification team because I was working with them on the releases and stuff.
Yep.
And I was like, is there any wiggle room or is there any way we can offer coupons or we can lower the price, because the barrier to like take these certifications, which is very important to accelerate your career, it's just too much. It's just too much. And I mean, after conversations, they actually changed the price.
That's awesome.
And they actually offered coupons
Right.
to the community.
Yep.
So I think like being a listening ear and like having that empathetic forward thinking, I think like leads me a lot in my work. Another example I have is this community was having a hackathon, and they really wanted some access to some sort of tool that we have at GitHub. And they were partnering with another company, but then the company dropped out last minute because they didn't see the ROI on the impact to train minority communities on the tool.
Wow, okay.
That really got me really, really upset. Like, I got so mad. But I immediately went back to my team and I'm just like, XYZ is happening, can we do something? And we were able to do something.
Good.
Yeah, so like that's kind of how I kind of use my empathy or my social worky know-how to like kind of lead in the tech field.
Awesome. I think that's incredible and a great example to pull right away. The idea that you have a certification to use your software would create a pipeline of people using your software. So the lower you can make the barrier of entry, it seems like the better long-term outcomes for the company itself.
And I mean, like I also use my social work skills in how I speak and how I communicate about technical topics. So a lot of the times, talking about tech is boring. Right. It's very like dry. It's very not exciting. So I try always to find ways to relate it to a story or to relate it to something that somebody can actually use in their lives, so they can see themselves in the tech and be excited about using it. Right. So I think definitely my social worky brain comes in there too.
Right. Fantastic. Given your path from boot camp grad to educator, speaker, and GitHub advocate, what is on the horizon? What are you excited about that you want to build or experience or participate in?
Yeah, honestly, I'm very excited to just keep building with GitHub, but I'm most excited about building That Lady Dev, right? Mm-hmm. So That Lady Dev is an online platform that is on a mission to democratize tech and to get like women, specifically Black women and minority women, into the tech things, right? To elevate their financial stance and like their financial positioning in life, because that's what I did, and it's been so transformative for me.
Right.
So I want to be a voice, and I want to do workshops. I have a workshop coming in the next 2 months where I'll teach you how to build your own apps using AI. No need to learn how to code. I'll show you how to do it from idea to production. Mm-hmm. I have trainings coming up on how you can use social media actually to attract opportunities to you, because I've seen the value of social media, not just for being an influencer, that's just basic, but to attract these opportunities to you to allow you to grow in your field. So I'm also working on building out agentic systems for companies. I'm working on right now for a very busy entrepreneur who's having a hard time managing her emails, brainstorming business ideas, just coming up with different things. So I'm working on building her like a personal ChatGPT thing that's local to her machine, that doesn't upload her information to OpenAI or any other LLM company. Right. So those are the kind of things I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about building and scaling my company.
Have you built an agent for yourself?
Not yet. Oh, actually, yes, I did.
What was the problem you were solving, or what efficiencies were you creating?
The problem I was solving was actually content creation. So I have a newsletter, and so a lot of the times I just have all these ideas. So I built a chatbot, like my personal chatbot, where I can just spit my idea in and it will just format my newsletter based on like previous newsletters I've done.
Awesome.
And my content style and all that jazz.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Kedasha Kerr, thank you so much for your time.
It's just the beginning. You'll see me more. Watch this space.
Good. I'm your host, Bryndan Moore. The Black Futurist Podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. I'd love to hear back from you, and I'll see you next time.